So I have in front of me a project that's called The Faders on the Bus. And it's from an old video, and I probably referenced this song probably 2 or 3 times. It's not a real song. It's just something that I recorded to show how to deal with using aux sends and to deal with faders on the bus, which is what we call like bus or aux send. So if you're not quite sure what I mean by that, that's for another video, but I have videos about that too as well. So this is what we're working with. Now it does have some effects on it, but we're gonna like try to tweak it because I was just listening to it and I was like, ooh, like what kind of mix is this? And I think I never mixed it. So let's talk about how to mix it.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay, now from your first instinct of listening to that, what do you notice? Let me know in the comments. What did you notice? And you can put the timestamp, whatever timestamp it is. What did you notice about it? Were you able to hear everything clearly? Was there anything that was sticking out or that was out way too front or anything that was way in the back that you couldn't really hear? This is some of the questions you want to ask yourself when you're mixing, all right? You got to know what you want things to sound like. There's no one size fits all type of solution when it comes to mixing. But some things that I noticed is that the vocals are way loud. Now, these are background vocals, and I probably recorded them last, so that's the reason why they're so loud. But I just noticed that most of the music got lost in the mix, and it's like the vocals are way up here, and the music was just like here. And I kind of want things to be more balanced. So I'm going to start with the drums first. The first thing that we want to work on is called gain staging. Gain staging means that I want to make sure that my levels are to a point where nothing is clipping, all right? And I want to have some headroom. This is very helpful when you get into mixing later on. So if you're a person and you're saying, okay, well, I want to get it loud. I want to get it as like, I want to just to smack you upside the head, you know, great, we can get there. But first we want to make sure that everything is balanced and everything has room for when you start applying other effects later on. Now, keep in mind, this is just beginner stuff. So some of the more advanced tips, if you have questions or if you have a different way of doing things, please put it in the comments. All answers and all solutions are welcome. All right, I want to look at my channel strip, which is on the left side. And I want to look at each of these channels and I want to check the gain on them. But before I do that, I'm going to pull up my mixer. I'm going to press my mixer on my console view, and it's going to be Alt 2. All right, it's going to bring it up. If you press Shift D, it's going to bring it up even more. Now, I just want to look at these tracks and see. I'm going to move my master over. I don't really need it right now. These are all the tracks. I have 14 tracks right now, so let's see what we got.
The faders on the bus goes up and down. You can feel it in.
Okay, so when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing that I've got a lot of headroom already, right? There's nothing peaking. There's nothing, you know, poking out as far as dynamic level. I mean, as far as volume level. I'm not dealing with dynamics, but I'm just mean volume wise. Everything seems to be relatively low. So I know I can boost some things. What I like to do is I always like to start with the drums first because I'm a drummer by nature, percussionist. So it's my first instrument. Now this is used in Cakewalk TTS sounds. So they're not the fattest sounds ever. So normally when you get samples from other places, you may get, you know, things that have been compressed and they've been EQ'd to sound a certain way. So this is my bass drum. Okay, and I have no effects, right? Nothing on it, no EQ. Pro channel EQ is not on there. Now, I think 4 is my level where it's at because it's kind of hidden peaking at 0 decibels. Let's see if you can see that better. Okay, so you can see that better. Let's listen to it again. Oh, start it over. Okay, so and I'm noticing that it's hidden right like 0 decibels. Rule of thumb, you want to have it hit anywhere between -12, which is way down here, and -6, okay? Now, drums are always going to hit a little different because they're going to kind of clip some. But if I want to, I can bring down the gain. And let me show you where that is. So up here, you'll see the gain. And you can notice when I lower it down, the volume gets softer. And I can bring it up too as well if I want it to get louder. If you double click, it'll go back to the gain being at 0 straight up. One thing that I noticed is that my clap is panned to the left and my hi-hats are panned to the right a little bit. And this is typically done because of what I used for Cakewalk TTS. And let me go back and find that. Back view. Okay, Cakewalk TTS is right here. And if you look at the instrument, let's bring this over so you can see a little better. And let's see what that's on. Okay, it's on right here. It's on 1. So when I click on to edit, everything is cool there. The pan is right there. Okay, so the nature of this instrument is automatically panned a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm panning it back right because I really want that fader to be more even. So both sides are kind of even. I like my snare and my bass drum to be all in the middle. Now my hats, on the other hand, I'm not really worried about them. Okay. Gain wise, hats may be a little bit too loud. Let's bring up the console view again. Alt 2, Shift D. All right, and now we're going to, I'm gonna bring this gain down some for the hats. Now I can pan this to the right. And what I'm doing is I'm creating space. So panning is always helpful for creating space. If you have everything dead in the center, then, I mean, it works, but you either gotta choose the balance between things being in the center and things being below. And what I mean by that is, say for instance, if I got the drums, I got the snare, everything is centered. Well, what's going to be the loudest of those instruments? You know, is the bass drum going to be louder? Is the snare going to be louder? Is the vocals going to be louder? The lead vocal should be on top. If the bass drum's here and the vocal is here, they can be even with each other. And the reason why is because the bass drum is more low end frequency. The vocal is more mid-range and high frequency, so they work well with each other. But I would never put a bass drum and a bass guitar and a trombone or a tuba all at the same level as far as volume, and they're all within the same frequency range. Okay, I wouldn't do that. So if you're going to keep everything centered, then you got to bring something down, and you might have to adjust the EQ of it to get it to cut through the mix. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we come to EQ, which is next. All right. So what I could do for these drums is I can create a drum bus, all right? And I don't know if I created one before, but I can create a drum bus, which is just a quick way to kind of get all of these to sound a little better. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm highlighting track 1, 2, 3. All right, and I don't remember what this is. Let me hear this again. Okay, so I got some little percussion there. Okay. Okay. All right, so And let's save this, Control S. We're gonna shift click that, all the drums, and I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna go insert, no, not insert, insert send. Yeah, insert send. Do I want to do that? To new stereo bus. Okay, could do that. Let's do that. And then we have the new stereo bus, which you can't really see, is down here. It's called bus F. Okay, you can't really see it, but I'm gonna name it down here. It's called the drum bus. This is the drum bus that's to the left.
The faders on the poles up and down.
Okay, so what do you notice automatically? Now you notice that it seems like the drums and everything has got louder.
The faders on the bus.
So, but when I add this back in,
The faders.
now the drums are kicking through more. And so this is what I would use is like if I was doing parallel compression. This is one way of doing parallel compression. Or parallel EQing or parallel, I won't just say compression, but just parallel anything basically. And then maybe on here, I want to put on the Pro channel. You click the little knob that's up here. It says Show Hide Pro channel. Okay, we're on the drum bus. This is everything on the drum bus. I have it turned on. And I'm just gonna...
The faders.
Okay, now there's a compression on here. Right now, I'm just gonna leave it just like it is. Now, you would really, ideally, you would go through and kind of change some of this channel strip. I've got a video that kind of talks about that. Do I want the tube on? The console emulator, I don't really need to have it on. Okay, but I'm gonna turn it off for now. All right, and then let's see, EQ wise, let's do something.
The faders on the bus goes up and down. You can feel it in the air, it's all around.
Okay. Now, what I'm looking at now is that I'm noticing that I don't have all of these, all of them didn't go to the drum bus. I just realized that, and that's my fault. Okay, when you highlight these, hold down Shift, hold on, click on the number, hold down Control, I'm sorry. And then while you're holding down Control, you want to right click on them and then insert to drum bus. Okay, and then now you'll see all of them go there. I was wondering why the bass drum sounded so good, but everything else sounded so quiet.
The faders on the bus goes up and down. You can feel it in the air, it's all around.
Okay, so let's go back to the drum bus again over here. Let's click on it. Let's see what's going on over here. You can hear a difference already, right?
The faders on the bus goes up and down. You can feel it in the air, it's all around.
Okay. Now, quick mix, and I'm just trying to make the drum sound better. Now, ideally, I would go through and I would say, I want the frequency on the drums to do this. So this is basic EQing. Now, normally when you're working with things or working with tracks, it's better to cut away. I'm doing a drum bus to quickly mix this, but like I said, ideally I would go through each track and I would say, ooh, I want the snare to sound this way. I would put individual EQs on each of these tracks. Or I would group the tracks together. Like if it's cymbals, hi-hats, they can all kind of be mixed the same. But the snare and the bass drum are two instruments that are totally separate, and I kind of want them to hit a certain way, so I might add different effects on them. But in this case, I'm kind of just, I can mix this in like this drum bus, because normally if I turn it down, you still hear the drums, right? But when I bring it in, okay, you can notice that everything got louder. So this is kind of like, I can do a lot of crazy stuff on this one channel, but I still can blend it in with the original drum sound, which is cool. Let's go back to this. All right, we got console. Do I want a little tube saturation on there? Maybe, I don't know. Let's try it.
The faders on the bus goes up and down. You can feel it in the air. It's all
Now you see how this channel is peaking? I would come back and I would turn the gain down for that.
around,
But I like what I'm listening to that tube now. I'm noticing I don't really like it.
The faders on the bus goes up and down. You can feel it in the
Now these hi-hats are not these hi-hats, these crashes are a little too loud. Okay. Now you can also mix with the faders, so don't feel like you only have to use the gain. I'm just setting my gain first, and then if I feel like when I'm getting to really mixing things, then I can just work with the faders.
faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay, so then I would move on to the bass guitar. Now, where I have my bass drum at EQ wise and where I have my bass guitar at EQ wise might be a little different. Rule of thumb for working with a bass guitar is that the bass guitar, let's listen to it.
You can feel
Let's just solo it. Okay, is it on? Okay. All right, let's zoom in some. Okay, and you can kind of see that, yeah, there's a lot more lower information. There's some low mids, and low mids tend to be what really make the bass guitar pop more. So let's listen to it if I just bring it up. That's the bottom. Okay, and I might keep it there if I like it. Let's hear it with the bass drum though. So there's one trick that you can do that will work well with bass drums and bass guitars, and that's using sidechain compression. And the way that works is, since we're talking about compression now, is if the bass drum hits hard, like it's got the transient. The transient is the tack, like when it hits, all right? Or we call it a click sometimes. But you want the bass to kind of be felt but not really heard like that, then you may have the bass kind of closes and it opens up as soon as the bass drum hits. So when the bass drum is basically telling the bass guitar when to open up. So it's kind of like saying, hey, you know, after I hit, now you can open up. And that's how sidechain compression normally works. It's great for synth. It's great for a lot of different things, basically. But it's a fun way. I got a video that talks about that too as well. So if you need help with that, let me know. I can share it with you. All right, let's move on. So assuming that my bass drumming. Okay, cool. All right, I just took the gain up a little bit. Simple things. If it does, if it sounds good to you, that's the most important thing to remember, all right?
the faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay, and I noticed now I got this keyboard part, which is, oh, that's not it. Okay, I got it. One good thing is whenever you're mixing, make sure that you like label these, like really label your tracks. So I'm hearing the chords, which is cool. They're cool. Got a little tremolo on there. But I can do some EQing with this as well. And the reason why is because it's dark, but I feel like I'm missing like the highs of it. Another thing you can do with this is you can probably make it stereo. Let's go to, look at this a little bit more. Pull this up. Okay. So let's listen to the keyboards where it's at.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay. So you can see there's a little low end there, but I'm gonna do a high pass filter. Okay. High pass cut. Basically what that does is cut the lows out. I don't want all the lows out, but I don't want it to really compete with the bass drum or
the faders on the bus goes up and down. The faders on the bus goes up and down. The faders on the bus goes up and down. The faders on the bus goes up and down. The faders on the bus goes up and down. The faders on the bus go.
Okay, and the reason why I'm listening so long, I know you're probably wondering what the heck am I doing. I'm listening to it because I can tell that between that 200, 300, 400 hertz range, that's where the keyboard is most sweet at, like the tone of this. So now, remind you, I boosted the bass somewhere between like 100 and 300 hertz, so I can probably boost this a little bit.
Goes up and down.
Okay, another thing I can do is I can make this stereo, make the keyboard more stereo, which will kind of push it in the back some, but kind of make it more left and right. A stereo field will add, like just kind of enhance it. Two different ways I can probably go about doing this. One, I can duplicate the keyboard part and I can pan one side to left, one side to right, and I can kind of nudge them apart from each other to kind of get more of a stereo field. Or I can use some type of effect. And I'm going to add an effect that comes with Cakewalk. Let's go to, what is it called? Let's go to plugin. Let's switch it over. Okay, and I'm gonna add an effect that comes in Cakewalk. So I'm gonna click the plus sign right here, or you can do it right here. I'm gonna go to insert audio FX, and I'm gonna do plugin layouts. I'm gonna change it to manufacturer, and I'm gonna change it to Cakewalk. So now I can go to Cakewalk directly, and it's called the Surround Works. I think I like this one better. And what we can do is, it's got presets on it. Yeah, presets, positions. So I'm gonna like put it like right here. Doesn't really make it like stereo.
The faders on the bus goes up and down. The faders on
It does have a stereo input part though.
the bus.
This is where it's at normally. Let's just hear the keyboards. Okay, this brings it all the way in the back of your headphones. If you got headphones, you can really hear it. That's more to the front, more in the center, more in the back. Okay, it's one thing that I can.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Now, that's one thing that I can add to it. It might help. I'm not quite sure if I like it. If I don't like it, then I can add something else. Now, another thing that I can do is I can add another effect. See if Cakewalk has any other effects. I can add a Let's see, EQ, delay. The reverb would actually help too as well. I can add some reverb to it. And you might say, well, what the heck is reverb going to do? Well, reverb has a width button on here, a width knob, not width, but I can turn it all the way up to 200, put it on the tail end, and put some early reflection, see what it sounds like.
The faders on the
That's centered. That's more width. That's without the tail. And what the tail means is just going to add reverb to the very end of the clip, basically, if that makes sense. Then I can adjust this. I can adjust the pre-delay. Okay. This is all, I'm just going off of by ear. You know, a lot of times when I get here, I'm doing stuff by ear. I'm not really I'm trying to think about what I like.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay. I'm already hearing it a lot better. It adds a little bit more space to it. This hearing it without. Let's turn this off and that off, and you can hear what it sounded like before.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Put it on.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay, it ever so slightly just pushed it out some, which is great. Mind you, I would come back and I probably hit with another EQ. I would probably make, I want to add a little bit more highs to it. I might even come in here and I might change the tone of the keyboard. Listen to it now.
The faders on the bus goes up and down. The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay. Now maybe I might not do the tone that much, but it's cutting through more when you change the tone. The tone is kind of making more clarity come through versus the tone being lowered, making it a darker sound. But I like dark keyboards, so it all depends on what you're going for. And then one thing that I love about keyboards and piano is that as much as I'm a piano player and I love piano, piano does not have to be the foundation of your song, but it all depends on what it is. Like if you got a vocal and piano, well, yeah, heck yeah, the piano is very important. But if you got drums, strings, bass, guitar, horns, all this extra stuff, synth, your pad, we call it pad, which is your floor chords or whichever, they can be much lower. You don't have to have them so dominant where you hear them, because you got background vocals that are really filling in the harmony. So the reason why we have the piano parts is for the harmonic content. So you don't really need all of that in there, but it's still good to have it. Now, another thing that can help you mix better is knowing the placement of your recording process or your production. So if you're recording a song and you know that you're going to have a whole bunch of parts in it, like a whole bunch of instruments, placing them rhythmically, accurately towards where they're not competing with each other in rhythm, that will definitely help you mix better. If you listen to like the bass drum and the bass,
The faders on the bus goes up.
okay, so boom, boom, boom. Okay, but I don't have the bass drum going. Now I could have it go, but I just got it. So the bass drum catches one of those beats with the bass guitar, but it doesn't actually catch the whole entire thing. And then the keyboards, bling, bling. Keyboards are kind of downbeat. The keyboards on the downbeat, the bass drum and the bass guitar are more syncopated, and then the vocals are kind of more straight. So if you play around with your rhythmic placement of your parts, that will make it easier too as well. All right, let's go to the next thing. Okay, we talked about EQ, we talked about the gain stage and just making sure that your gain level is good. You don't want distortion whatsoever. Never have distortion unless you're going for a distortion type effect. When you move from there, then you want to get into compression. And I kind of talked about compression already, but let's go back to the vocals. All right, let's look at these vocals a little bit.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
So I got a part right here, and this is aux 2, but these are the actual vocal parts. And it seems like I got a lot of effects on here. Let's go to the console view again, aux 2.
The bus goes up and down.
Okay, so what I noticed right away is that there's this part right here on track 11. It's pan all the way to the left. I don't know why it's pan to the left, but let me put it straight and let's see what it sounds like.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Let me listen to them one by one.
The fader on the bus goes up and down.
Okay, so when you're dealing with EQing and compression, make sure that you have the unwanted frequencies. I like to get them out the way first. So whatever frequencies that I don't want, I would do that with EQ, surgical EQ, which is doing reduction or subtraction on there. And then I would hit it with a compressor, all right? This compressor, I'm using Sonitis compressor. I'm sorry. The attack is 2.8, 165 release. Very light compression, you know, very light knee, you know, not a lot. I could go extreme with this if I wanted to, but I'm not. And then I'm coming back behind with the VC64, which I think I have compression on too as well. Let me see.
Bus goes up and down.
Yeah, there's some compression on it.
The faders on the bus
But this is not
goes up and down.
this is not really activated much because you can't even see the needle moving. So I probably just have it on there enabled, but it's not really doing anything much. And then I come back with some more EQ. Then I come back with some reverb at the back end. Did I need all of these plugins? No, I did not need all of these plugins. Don't ever think that you need to use a whole lot of plugins in your mix. You can get away with doing some things very simple. Like you might even be able to get away with just using one plugin. Might just use EQ or maybe some reverb. So I think we get really trippy about having like multiple compressors, multiple EQs, and this would just be on one track. And sometimes it helps if you're going for a specific type of sound, but other times it might actually hurt your sound. All right. Compression wise, you got Sonitis, works great. You can definitely use any of the stock plugins that are within Cakewalk. But if you need additional plugins, then yeah, you know, reach out, you know, find some free ones. There are free ones that you can use, and there's some paid ones that you can use too as well that I like. My vocals, one of the next things that I would do as far as mixing them, and this is really just an editing tip, is I would come in and I would fade in and fade out, you know. So like saying right here, if you take them and you highlight all the tracks, hold down control, then you can bring them in like that. You can grab at the very tip, you'll see like a little right angle triangle. And once you see that, then hold down control again, and then you can fade in. Let me hear what that sounds like.
The faders on the bus goes up and down.
Okay. Then I would put a split right there. Press S, and that will bring up the split clips. Okay. Press OK. Let's move this over some so you can see it better. Press OK, and then now I can split again for the next part. Oops, sorry. Then I can split again for the next part. Then I can get rid of all these. Okay. And then notice it automatically puts a fade out on there. I have it set like that up here. There is a little setting. Go all the way up to the top. There is a little fade, linear fade in, fade out that you can have checked or unchecked. And if you do splits, it'll automatically fade out or fade in. Okay. Now, hopefully you are enjoying this video so far. I know this is a lot. I probably gave you a lot of information at one time, and I'm moving really quick, and I apologize for that. But if you need any more questions about this is just a beginner tutorial. After you've done the gain stage and make sure your gain is correct, making sure that your levels are not too high, then you might want to do some EQ. Subtractive EQ, getting rid of the frequencies that you don't want. Then might you want to follow behind with some EQ that things that you may want to add. Then you can add compression, and then from there, all the sweet effects, your delays, your reverb, etc., stuff like that. But those are like the main things: EQ, compression. Those are the main two things that really can make or break the way your mix sounds. And you can use compression for the overall mix. We talk about multi-band compression. That could be something I'll share with you in another time. I do have a video about multi-band compression, how to use that. And that's for like the overall mix. But if you want, or you might want to use it on vocals. It comes in handy too on vocals too as well. Wow. Okay. It's the beginning of the year, and I'm hoping that I have so many more videos to put out this year. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely subscribe. Just a norm. Take care.